Hello, hello, and welcome to the Joy of SharePoint webinar series. I hope everyone is having a great week so far. Some of my friends in Alabama I know have officially gone back to school, so I'm sure the parents are having a great week. Kids, maybe not so much. But I am glad you are here. Today we want to talk about how do you view? How do you look at, manage, and work with our columns, which consist of our views, inside of the modern SharePoint? And of course, we've got a new version of SharePoint on-prem coming out, which is going to have some modern aspects to it as well. So this may be relevant for those of you going to 2019, and it's definitely relevant for those of us that are in the online version of the world. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I have prepared some slides with nice, pretty pictures, but if you've been on this webinar before, you know I don't spend much time in slides. I prefer to be right inside of the product. So buckle up and let's talk about how we view. So I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys and tell on myself just a little bit. Because the joy of SharePoint has a hard time sometimes doing things the new way. And I find myself, or I'm getting better, I found myself going back and doing things the old way because it takes time to learn how to use some of the new buttons and features inside of our modern SharePoint. And I like to do things fast. I walk fast. I drive fast, and I like to work fast. So it felt slow for me to figure out the new ways of creating columns, managing views, creating views. And I had a little talk with myself one day, and I said, okay, girl, this is ridiculous. You are a trainer. You are a consultant. You need to get with the program and start doing this the new way. So I thought, well, what better way than to write a blog about it? And when I got into about 6 pages into the blog, I said, okay, nobody's going to read a 6-page blog. So let's webinar this. Let's look at that dilemma of doing things the old way that kind of feels fast until we realize we're having to hopscotch all around SharePoint to find the button to do it the old way. It's just time to learn new. So that's what we're going to do. And I hope this takes just a short amount of your time today, but then gives you more time back because you'll know, okay, this is the faster new way of doing things. So long story short, here we go. So we have a toolbar now inside of our modern SharePoint that replaces our old beloved ribbon. I really loved the ribbon when it came about in 2010. But the good news is we're really not losing anything. We may have differing opinions on that. I actually can think of a couple of things I wish were on the toolbar, but I have faith will be there soon. It's contextual, depending on what I'm doing. Cannot see the presentation. Uh-oh. Let me reshare. Thanks for speaking up. Okay, I reshared the screen. Shelly and Lori, how's that looking now, ladies? Yes, thank you for letting me know. Looks like I had a little GoToWebinar blip. Yay! And see, I even had a cool slide, so I'm going to back it up if there's any such thing as a cool slide. I don't know. So new and old, right? There we go. Pretty pictures. We love pretty pictures. Okay. Toolbar, contextual, right? We've got, oh, you're welcome, Linda. We've got what we need right there for us on that interface. But better than anything that was ever on the ribbon, I have to say, are the new Filters pane and the Details pane. Those make the new modern interfaces of the library worth every bit of, dare I say, frustration for when we first transitioned over to our modern Listen Library interfaces. We can work more with the columns right inside what I call the root of the library, right, that library pane, instead of having to go up to our library settings into the settings page and scroll down and find our columns. And I'm going to be going through that with you guys. So we can do a lot more right on the library page than we ever could before. That's going to include saving views, editing views, and creating new views. Toolbars. Okay, so this is probably the extent of slides for a minute or two. But yeah, our ribbon is gone. That was a little hard at first, but the toolbar gets better and better. So I'm going to actually jump straight over to my modern site, demo site, cleverly called Modern Demo because naming things is hard. I'm going to go over into my documents library. Somebody in the question section said they like pretty pictures. Paisley, you must be from the South. I'm gonna wager a guess there. Me too, Sweet Home Alabama. All right, so here's a documents library and here's our toolbar. So we're used to these buttons, right? We've had them for a long, long time. I can create new. I do have a few options that I didn't used to have back in the olden days. But again, unless we have custom content types, which is a webinar for another day, I'm just going to get blank Office document options here. Upload, we know how to do that. This is new and different. But again, a webinar for another day about putting folders inside of SharePoint. That's another age-old dilemma. Quick edit. I'm going to click the button. I never met a button I didn't want to click. Right, that's our spreadsheet view from back in the day, may also be known as the data sheet view. This gives us, still has our nice bulk editing capabilities kind of all at once here. Still got that, love it. Sync, you can sync this down to your desktop if you need to take it offline. Just remember, if you have checkout enabled, that sync on your desktop will be read only. Export to Excel, flow, and then we have the ellipsis where I can set up alerts and manage alerts. So it's a lot more streamlined than it used to be, right? I can still get to my different views over on the right-hand side of the screen. I have a few baked in views that are relatively new, tiles. I don't particularly like seeing my documents as tiles. Maybe that's just me, but we'll roll with it. And filters and details, we'll look more at those here in just a minute. I love them. But if I select an item, my view changes, right? Just like in our ribbon, if we had something selected, my ribbon buttons would light up, or I might go to files or tab. Well, now it's all in one. So I can select one item, download, copy the link, share it. We love to share content. That's the whole point of SharePoint, right? Move it to another location, copy to another location. Notice how it's looking at all the different areas I have here. Just remember, move and copy to are very different functions, right? If I'm copying, I'm creating a duplication, and we always want to be careful when we duplicate our data. Rename, version history, alerts, checkout. I could also select multiple items. Notice my menu up here on the toolbar got a lot smaller. And pet peeve, all right, here we go. Here's an opinion. I want my checkout button back, right? I want to be able to check out multiple items all at once. I should have put the link to the user voice on the slides. I didn't do that, apologies. But if you go out to the Google or the Bing, you can go to the user voice that Microsoft has, and there's an idea out there about bulk checkout. We can vote that up. Please vote that up. I want it back. The question, if you pin an item to the top, is that a personal view, or will all users see that item pinned to the top of the view? Great question, Gordy. That is for everyone. So if I think this communication plan is super important and I always want people to be able to see it when they first come in, I can pin that to the top. and it will always stay at the top. I have seen some companies do this with like particular instructions that they know when users come in, they're always looking for those instructions. Make it easier for folks. You can pin content to the top. The only thing, let's see, now my view's gone. I want to look at something real quick. If I go to the compact list with something pinned to the top, doesn't affect it. The only thing I don't personally like about pinning things to the top is that if I'm on a smaller screen, I'm losing some screen real estate, but it may be worth losing that if that's super important. And sometimes we might name something, like if I think this SharePoint glossary is super important, if I wanted it to always be at the top of the library, sometimes we do things with names. We go AAA SharePoint glossary, right? So we finagle the name to promote it up to the top. Well, now we can pin items to the top to make sure they're always up there. So I just clicked it. An alternative would be just have a series of these super important items pinned to the top, so we never lose them. That's nice. I'm going to actually unpin these now. So I get my real estate back. Unpin. Oh, I liked that. I could choose to move it left or right. That's relatively new. Unpin. Okay. I think I'm back on the compact view, which kind of just scrunches things up. Yes, scrunch is a technical term, if you were confused by that. So it's contextual, filters, and detail panes. I kind of got a close-up view of these for you here real quick. Filters is one of my favorite things. Why did I skip flow? That question came up. That's almost a whole other webinar, but Flow is a workflow application that connects into SharePoint, but it is SharePoint agnostic. So it doesn't have to be SharePoint. Flow can work with Exchange, Twitter, Dynamics, Teams. There's a broad application for using Flow to automate processes that may touch SharePoint or they may touch other enterprise applications. So there's a little blurb on Flow, but we could spend a day, honestly, talking about all the capabilities inside of Flow. Is pinning to the top just for the current view or for any view in the document library? You know what? I'm not sure. Let's find out. I've never toggled around much with anything pinned. So when I jump back in, that's the first thing we'll do. So the filters pane and the details pane are available now. Details are going to give you information about specific items, and it also gives you more editing capabilities. The filter, well, it does exactly that. It lets us do on-the-fly filtering as we're inside our lists or libraries. So the first thing I'm going to do for Brian is pin something to the top, and then I'm going to kind of say my gut saying it might be just for that specific view, but I could be wrong. Okay, so it doesn't show up in grouped. Grouped has always been its own little thing. Let's see if it shows up in PDFs. I don't have any PDFs, but it's not showing up. Test edit. Nope. So it's going to be view specific. Thanks for asking that question. Let me unpin that. So let's look at our details pane and our filters pane. Filters. So we know the whole point of a view, right, is to get away from those deep folder structures where we have to dig into our data to find specific items that we're looking for, right? Our filters let us kind of get rid of the noise inside of our library and surface specific groupings of content. For example, if on the fly, I just want to come in and say, I know what I'm looking for is a Word document and an outline. then I can just use this filter and this will show me what I'm filtering on. And I can just break through the data that's in the library and get that subset that I'm looking for. Also uncheck these very quickly. Maybe I just want to see images. Now, if we find ourselves coming in and doing this filter very frequently, it might make sense for us to actually create a view from that. If you notice, when I'm making these edits here, I get this little asterisk next to my view. That's telling me that there are unsaved changes. So if I wanted to commit these changes, I would come in, save view as. Now, if I do all documents, I'm going to overwrite the current all documents view. So it might make sense for me to say images. And now I have an images view. Alphabetically ordered here in our view dropdown. I love that. It's very simplistic. Just remember, if you see that asterisk up there after you've made some changes, maybe I do this. When I navigate away from this page, or if I refresh the page, then I'm going to lose those changes. So I'll just do a quick refresh here. It's similar to how we used to work inside of our lists and libraries before, and we would do filters on the fly with our columns. Same thing here. If we don't save it, we lose the changes. I'm going to jump back to my All Documents view. And let's look at our Details pane. I always want to call it Information because it is an I there, but I didn't write the documentation for Microsoft, so that's their call. Right now, I'm in the library. If I were in a list, this would work exactly the same. And I'm seeing details about the library as a whole. Recent activity, where some announcements were made. Little edits here. I created this document on July 5th. More details. Doesn't look like there really are more details at the moment. But if I select an item, we'll pick on this communication plan. I'm going to get information about this specific item. I get a thumbnail, which is kind of nice. We can't really read it, but if we're familiar with our documentation, we can tell if that's the right one or not. That's a little better. Kind of scroll down. I mean, that's pretty intense for a thumbnail, right? I see it's been viewed 11 times. I can see who has access to it. I could add people if I want them to be able to see this, which is very similar to the share button in our toolbar. Or I could look at the groups that have access. I have this manage access link, and I could go to advanced. This will look very familiar. It's our permissions page. And I do like that that opens up in a new tab for me, so I'm not having to use my back button and dig back to where I had been before. And then I have the option to grant as well. And if this is shared with other people that I don't want to have access to it, I could stop that sharing. So you have a lot of permissions management right here in this details pane. Close that guy down. Let's keep scrolling, see what else we've got. Properties, these are our columns. Notice I have the option to edit all. Let the browser page spin. Takes me to my edit form, right? The edit form still exists and it still has a URL, right? It's still SharePoint in the background. So I could go through here and make changes to all of these properties. Let me cancel this guy. Let's look at what else we can do. As the page loads. Oh, I lost my selection. Here we go. I could also choose to edit one field at a time. Just put something in here. Click my save button. I have drop-down columns. It lets me get to those as well. If you're using manage metadata and the term store, because who doesn't like shoes? I guess we're going to communicate about shoes. Select that. Lots of great stuff we can do here. More details, this will show me edits and changes made to the individual item, even down to the size of the file, my path, type of file. Lots of good stuff. Do you have to be an admin to change permissions? You do not, but you do have to be a site owner. How will users see the need to update comments if they are not in the view? See the need to update comments. Well, I think that would be more of if I'm in here and I'm reviewing through my information, I could make those comments about it. I could, let me close my details pane. So I've got the comments column here, and actually this is a good time to talk about our column order. Remember, since we read from left to right, we tend to think of the information on the left-hand side of the screen as more important than that's on the right. So let's say, for instance, this column way over here on the right, at the moment, gosh, people are going to have to scroll if they're on a smaller screen to see it. And when we have to scroll, then we miss stuff typically. So I have some options here. I could go to column settings and move to the left. This could be a little tedious, right? Because you see I'm having to move one at a time. But if you just need to make a quick, simple move, maybe that's good enough. More than likely, I would want to actually go in and edit the current view. And move that guy. If comments are super important, maybe if they're super important, I want to put it as far left as I think makes sense. If they're semi-important, somewhere in the middle. If it's really not important at all, but it's nice to see it, you stick it over to the right. So I now have comments here, need to update images. How this title column, this is bugging me because I'm not using it, obviously. There's nothing important in it. Well, instead of editing the view and kind of clicking around and wasting some time, I could go right here to column settings and just hide the column. Notice I've got this asterisk here. So if I want to save that, and I'm just resaving over all documents, I'm updating the view. And maybe I don't really care, I don't know, maybe I don't care who modified it, right? I could go in here, hide this column as well. Or if I wanted to move it further to the right by one, that's a good instance. It's a simple, easy move over to the right. Will everyone have that column then? Yes, everyone will have the column because all documents is a public view. We do still have the option to create private views. Just remember, I learned this the hard way many moons ago, back in my 07 days. You cannot transition a private view to a public view. So you might as well test it as a public view if you think it's going to be useful. And if you decide later it's not, just delete it. Let's see what else we can do here. I'll pick on this comments one. So column settings. I want to edit the column. I can change the name. Right now it's multiple lines of text. If I think single's fine, or if maybe I want choice, which wouldn't make sense for comments, but just as an example, you can change column types right here in line. More options, right? Require that it contains information, could toggle that off and on. Allow unlimited length in document libraries, yes or no, right? I have options. I love having these options right here in the root of my library. It's fast. What else can we do? Show hide columns. Okay. Aha. Now, maybe Santa Claus will come for Christmas and will also give me the option with those numbers on the left here, or sorry, on the right. But look what I do have. So maybe that's a little better than that one at the time, move left, move right. Yeah? Denise says this is sweet. I agree. I like this. Totally geeking out here, guys. Maybe I decide in my all documents view, I don't really need comments at all, but I do want to throw year back in. I don't have shoes, that's fine. Maybe year needs to go up. Again, it's kind of slow. I want that numbering system that we've had forever to come in. Maybe one day, right? It's a great thing about Evergreen. We might wake up one morning and it'll just be here. So, because sometimes Microsoft isn't the most consistent thing in the whole wide world, don't laugh, we know it's true. I don't have my save button right here where I can see it at the bottom, but I do have apply at the top. So just note, go up to the top for this one and apply, or if you're having a sudden change of heart, you can close out. I'm going to say apply. Sweet. It's getting better and better. Okay, so you'll notice I was actually talking with one of our designers one day, a couple of weeks back, and he was like, this trips me up all the time because I applied it. So to me, that should mean I saved it. You applied it for the moment. You still need to go save. Paranoia. Always be paranoid when it comes to saving, right? Okay, the asterisk's gone, so I know this is now permanent. Can you drag and drop rather than use the arrows? Let's find out. Show hide columns. I'll admit I tried this once a while back and I couldn't, so I never went back and tried again. Gordy, you're my hero, dude. Look at that. Wow. Is there a shortcut for save that will work? I have not found one yet, Linda. Apply. Save early and save often, right? Boom. I'll show you something else that's kind of neat too. Look here at the name. See, I get those arrows. So I can widen this to see. That's a really long title on this onboarding form. Someone needs a naming convention put in place. Now it's interesting. Literally a month ago, there was not a way to save this being a wider column, but it did give me an asterisk here. So I'm going for it. Okay, let's toggle around. This is kind of the scary thing for me as a trainer is I go in and I work on things and I can do or I can't do. And then literally days later, it's different. Look at that. That's saving it. That's so nice. You know, I was asked the other day if I really felt that Microsoft is listening to the users and if they pay attention to what people really want. If you'd asked me that question years ago, I'd have been no, not really. I mean, they want to make a good product because it's good business. But I'll tell you, today, I have to say yes. Because we can go out to the user voice website, ask for these ideas, vote, right? If you see an idea that you think is brilliant, you can upvote it. And they're listening. They'll comment, they'll ask you questions about situations where your idea might come into play. And it's really, really impressive. Is any of this lovely stuff tied to Edge or IE? Golly gee. It does work in Edge. I will confess that I rarely touch Internet Explorer unless I absolutely have to. I would say yes, it will work, but if you don't have to use IE, I would at least use Edge. I know, I'm sorry, Gordy, I'm sorry, but you guys want me to be honest with you, right? I don't want to lie here. I prefer Firefox. It works well. It works. So here's a little piece of information into my life. I have to use a gazillion different credentials throughout the day because not only am I in my environment, I'm in other people's environments as well. Firefox works really, really well managing that for me, right? Because I'm lazy. I want it to do that for me. Edge, I have more prompts to log in over and over and over again within one environment because it's kind of confused with these other credentials that it's cached previously. I prefer Firefox, but it will work in IE and Edge. Because I know a lot of our IT departments still kind of insist we use those Microsoft-based browsers. I will tell you this. I learned last year at Ignite that the Microsoft development team actually uses Chrome. So there's a little piece of information to stick in your pocket. So I have a question. When migrating classic sites to modern, what aspects of views do we need to be aware of? Honestly, the biggest thing is just that it's very different. It's very different. And when we're thinking about our users that are potentially going to wake up one day, go to their library that they know like the back of their hand, and it looks different, that's going to be a hard moment, right? Because change is scary. So if you're going to be migrating over to modern, it's never too soon to start communicating with your users. You notice one of these documents here is a communication plan and a communications plan example. It's just snippets of information that we recommend you share with your team. Maybe a picture of what the new library is going to look like. You know, let them see that they're going to have a toolbar, not the ribbon. So I'm going to click this Return to Classic SharePoint button. I mean, if we've been living with SharePoint for a while, you look and you go, okay, it's still a library, right? There is still kind of this guy right here, but there's a lot of buttons here that just aren't on the toolbar right now. And if they are, they're in very different locations. One thing I will point out to you that is not available in our modern interfaces is this Open with Explorer button, where you could put this in kind of that Windows Explorer view and move content around. That's always a kind of feature that should have been used rarely and cautiously anyway, but when you really, really need it, it's nice to have. So we're kind of moving away from that kind of functionality. What they've given us to replace that, dun dun dun, is the move to or copy to. So we can look in our environments and kind of move content around as needed. So I'm going to pause a moment and catch up with my slides. And if we have time, I actually have a little bonus feature for the end here. Just want to make sure. Did that. Oh, pinning things to the filters pane. Let's do that. So what does that mean, pin to the filters pane? Well, sometimes we have columns here that we don't have on our filters pane, and it might be nice to have. I may have these all filtered at the moment, but let's see if I can pin my created. Pin this to the filters pane. Because I've got that slide down there, but that's, personally, it's okay, but I'd rather have specific information. Oh, that's what I get, huh? Yeah, fine. So nothing was created since yesterday. I could believe that. 30 days. I need to update my demo. There's something. Last 3 months. I don't like the slider, I'll be honest. Select specific dates. That's better. But I can pull columns that I've created as custom columns and put them over here in my filter pane. And if you get tired of them being there, you can unpin them. If I get tired of document category being here, I can remove it. So it's very customizable. This guy is fantastic. This makes building up your views so easy and so intuitive. And I even have a breadcrumb. All right. And you notice, if anyone remembers when we went to 2013, they kind of broke the breadcrumb and got rid of the navigate up button that those of us in 2010 grew to rely on. breadcrumbs are working really, really well these days. And if you're not sure what I mean by breadcrumb, since I don't have folders, I'll just jump into library settings. This guy right up here that kind of can help me navigate back up to where I was before. While we're on this page, classic Refinement panel display templates will come to modern. Naveen, give me half a second and we'll get to that question. I'll address that. When I'm on the settings page and you want to create a view, but you're already here, don't feel that you have to go back out to the root of your library to create or edit a view. Some of my old school peeps will remember this. The very bottom of your settings page, there is a list of all your currently created views. It will show you which one's default, which one has a mobile view configured. You can just click on this to jump into it to edit, or you could create a brand new one from here. So just know this is here. This is what I kept going to create new views up until literally about a month ago, because I just wasn't wanting to take the time to do it the new way. Now that I'm using the new way, that's the intuitive way for me now. All right, let me jump back out here into documents. One word of caution to give you, and then I think we will have time to kind of go to my little bonus section. I'm going to go to my test edit. So when you're in a view, you remember we had the option down here to edit the current view. So this takes us into that more familiar edit page. And maybe I want to pull out created comments and I don't know, add content type, because why not? So my first thought here, well, if I'm editing this view and I've got the option to change its name and its URL, can't I just create new test view as a new view separate from test view, right? It shouldn't overwrite because I'm giving it a new URL. I'm giving it a new name. You know, I've changed some stuff around, file size. So I'm going to say, okay. Let my page load. So I'm on my new test edit view. Yeah, it overwrote test edit. So just beware. It feels like that should create a new view doing it that way, but it doesn't, at least not today. So question, classic Refinement panel display templates, will that come into modern? So are we referring to the search refiners? So maybe, yes, okay. So when I'm on search here, this is scoped just to the library because I'm in the library. If I do see more results, it kind of puts it here. Let me try that. Are you going to keep me here? You're going to keep me here. You used to, when you did see, oh, okay, this is what we got. Expand search to all of SharePoint. That was super noticeable at the very, very bottom of the page. We were able to update created slider in the way we wanted. Ah, okay. We do still have that, and those search settings should still apply to be able to, yeah, it just expands it. I was hoping there'd be a menu there to get to what you wanted on the created. But that is, again, going to be on your search page. All right. If any of you have had the pleasure of playing around with the modern pages and the modern web parts, you'll know that it started out kind of slow. And as time has gone by, they've been adding in more and more functionality to modern web parts. They've given us actually a lot of new modern web parts here recently. But one of them that was kind of aggravating, and I'll be honest, mostly useless, was the document library or list web part. But if you haven't revisited that web part in a little while on your modern page, they have finally given us functionality into it of what we were used to having in our classic library web parts on our wiki pages. So I've edited my modern page, and I'm going to scroll down to an empty spot. Now, if you've not edited a modern page before, it's very different, but it's pretty darn intuitive. So when I just hover around here, I get this plus sign, so I know I can add something. And I got this little bitty box that holds my available web parts. If I want to make that bigger, I can. I'm looking for my document library web part. Notice it says preview. So officially this is in preview. But look, guys, this is awesome. Which library would you like? How about documents? So it's going to give me my default view by default, which is fine. But perhaps I want to use my grouped view here. It may be kind of ugly for a home page, but just for instance. You know, you still have the option to go in and set the view to stay collapsed. So I actually get functionality here on the toolbar. I can change the views and I can see my metadata. And that's something that's been lacking up until very recently on the modern library web part. So it's nice to know that's there, that's available. And to save that, I'm just going to say publish. Scroll back down. If you remember editing the classic ones, though, you always had to go and put the page in edit mode, and I would have to then go over, change it from the current view, get the warning that you were changing a view. It was kind of hoops. I don't really have to do that anymore. I love it. I work with another admin, so the grouped view is helpful. Yes, I totally agree. If your users are used to folders, and you're trying to move away from folders, I would highly encourage you to explore grouped views. Bonus, if I drag a document into, let's say, this image grouping, it'll auto tag the document category with image for me. So you get a level of auto tagging in your grouped views. And I think that's pretty wicked cool. And there's a Twitter web part. Who doesn't love Twitter? Okay, let me jump back to PowerPoint, check myself. Yep, we did that. We did that. This is really what I use slides for, to make sure I didn't forget something super important. All right, wicked cool. Yes, I had a really great training class in Boston, or Boston, depends on where you're from, right? A few years ago, and by the end of the week, I was saying wicked cool a lot. It stuck with me. So I'm not going to disappear on you, right? I'm going to hang out. But if you guys need to go so you can stuff your face with lunch or get back to something important, you don't have to hang on the line. But if you have some questions, please do feel free to put them in question section. If you want to find me on Twitter, I am at Joy of SharePoint. I've got my email address here too, jturner@pategroup.com. Hope you enjoyed the views. Some of you did ask about having webinars on communication plans or flow. So guess what? I'm going to go harass some of my people about having a flow webinar. Will you be able to view the webinar later? Absolutely. I'm going to get the recording of this over to my marketing guy here in a little bit, and we'll tweet out when it's available, and it will go up on our YouTube channel. So that's right. You can watch it as many times as you want. Send it out to your folks that are maybe trying to get used to the new and improved SharePoint. We're here to help. A webinar comparing all the different types of search in Office 365 would be great. Hey. Ooh, you guys are giving me homework. I actually love it because then I don't have to try to come up with ideas. You guys are doing the work for me. If you do have webinar requests, please don't be shy to tweet me, email me. Twitter really is a great way to get in touch with me. If you have questions, you can direct message me, just do a shout out on Twitter. I don't mind it at all. I love it, actually. Webinar ideas. I'm making notes as we talk. JS link and audience targeting for view permissions. What options do we have for modern? I am on LinkedIn, so yes, Linda, absolutely. That would be fantastic. There's not a lot of audience targeting built into the web parts in the modern world, but about a month ago, I read a Microsoft blog that they are going to start introducing some targeting based on page metadata. So I will try to find the link for that and tweet it out here this afternoon, because it looked really, and I'm going to say it again, wicked cool. I'm making a note. Metadata targeting. And I'll tell you this too, this is going to sound maybe kind of cobbled together, but I have some folks that I do mentoring with, and they had 2 different SharePoint pages. One they wanted to show to one sales team, one they wanted to show to another. The information came out of the exact same document library, and they didn't really care about the security. They just wanted ease of data management, right? They just wanted sales team A to see their page, sales team B to see theirs. We took a modern page and embedded each of those other pages, the URL for it, we embedded it right on the modern page. One was secured to team A, one page was secured to team B. The embedded web part did the security trimming for us. So when team A went in, they only saw the page they had permission to see. And when team B went to that exact same modern page, they only saw the secured classic page that they were supposed to see. I hope I said that in such a way that it makes sense. But you can do some quote unquote targeting doing that. It's kind of fun what you do when you fly by the seat of your pants in SharePoint, right? All right, so flow and search in modern. There's a lot of stuff that is capable now inside of the modern SharePoint framework. I will probably have to get to the smarter coders than I, because I don't code, to get you real information on that. But I tell you what, I'm going to put some feelers out to those guys and see if we can't do a webinar about, again, modern SharePoint framework, specifically in search. Yeah, see what we can't get out for you guys. Oh, I see. So one comment came up about if you're sharing with a remote third party, it may not be a good idea because they can't make changes to the parts they secured. That's true. Everybody still had the same level of security to the library itself, just not pages that we put library web parts on. But yes, Linda, that's a great point. You really want to make sure you don't secure away people's functionality that they still need. Always remember with SharePoint security, the need has to outweigh the want. Well, I want them to only see certain things and not others, but is that a security requirement? You guys have been fun. I appreciate you all joining in. I appreciate the questions and the conversations. You guys rock. This has been a fun hour. It's crazy I get to call this work. Oh, thank you, Linda. I appreciate you. Go forth and eat yummy lunches if you haven't gotten to it already. And I'm actually impressed. My 2 dogs are laying here on the floor and they haven't barked once. It's a minor miracle, people. Okay, well, I'm going to officially go on mute. I'm going to hang out till the close of the hour, whenever that is. So I'll keep an eye on question. Oh, with OneDrive document library views, we have less features than regular views, correct? I would say yes, that is correct. The personal My Drive, um, it really has kind of been condensed down to one library. There is some view functionality, but it is a lot less than what we used to have inside of our My Sites, where we actually had whole sites we could work in. Technically, it is a SharePoint library, but that's the one time I would say go to town with your folders if that's what you need to organize your content. Sweet home Alabama. Houston girl in Arkansas. Heck yeah, you're just across the line from me. I'm actually in Oklahoma these days. If we have calculated column, could we alter the formula from the view? Oh, that's going to be a Mark Rackley question. I see your laziness, and I'm going to raise it to I don't know. When we apply labels or metadata to OneDrive, will all filter pane and detail panes come in OneDrive? Will all filter pane and detail pane option come in OneDrive? You know, I am not sure, but I will be more than happy to do some research on that and get back to you. Filter and details in OneDrive. I'll be honest, I live in OneDrive a lot, and my OneDrive is a hot mess. Hot mess. So that'll give me initiative to maybe clean it up. I should have your email address since you registered for this. So if you don't mind, I'll just get back to you via email. And probably write a blog about it too. Woohoo! 2 for 1. Oh, you're very welcome. I appreciate the questions. Okay, I'm going to go on mute, but again, I'm going to hang out till 1 o'clock. So any other questions, don't be shy. Is it actually a version? Don't see it in IE. Okay, I'm catching up on what you're writing here. On the Open and Explore thing from the ribbon in Classic, it appears there's a modern version in the View menu in Modern, but not in Chrome Firefox. I see it in IE. I don't know about Edge. Still in Windows 7. Just another. Hey, fantastic. I may go poke at that later. That's why it's always good to have more than one browser in your arsenal. And I'm really bad about only being in Firefox. Gotcha. I mean, that's a great little feature to have. It can be dangerous when it's abused, but when you really need it, you really need it. Your secret is safe with me. I totally understand. Alrighty, 1 o'clock. Joy of SharePoint is officially signing off. Those of you still around, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope I will see you next month. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Todd. You're welcome. We'll catch you guys later. I know where to find you, Yazan. Oh, Patrick, thanks.